when they they're going to take a look at your wall to see where your branch office or your main office license is there. And if it's not the main office but a branch office, that you've got a list of the licensees who are in your office. They're going to go through and say, okay, show me your contracts. Now, again, make your life easy for yourself, because the contracts that they really want to see are those forms that you're holding escrows on. So make a list of all of your contracts that you've got currently pending, and put on that list what you have that you're holding escrows on and how much those escrows are. The investigator can go through and say, open your pending file and go through and pick out files. They'll pick out 3 or 4 files that they're going to follow through to look at and say, okay, when was the contract ratified? When was the earnest money deposited? Who are the parties involved? Okay? They can do the same thing with closed. And it's an idea of just a sampling to see, because if you're doing a sampling right, pretty much you should be doing it all right. Now, I will tell you, I did make some suggestions to the investigators when they were going through looking at the files, and sorry, but I told them the truth. They looked and they said, Amy actually said, oh, I'm going in when I opened my files, and it was nicer for me because it was the test. But anyway, when she goes through and she's opening the files, and Amy looked and she goes, oh yeah, I'm going to get that big thick one right there. I went, yeah, kind of don't want that one. Well, why is that? Because that big thick one's got everything in it. Look for that little skinny one. That little skinny one's missing stuff. Okay? And then they take that file and they sit down, and again, they're going to go through this whole list that Jay's going to give you, and they're looking for specific things in the policy, and then they're going to look at the escrows. Now, the investigation they did at my office, they then left, had lunch. We tried to take them to lunch, and they wouldn't go. So I tried to get them to take me to lunch, and they wouldn't do that either. But anyway, so we go, they went lunch, they came back to the main office. And at the main office, they said, okay, now, by the way, supervising brokers, you do realize that if you have property management in your office, you are also responsible for those rental units and that property management that's in your office. Yes, you may have a property manager and a head of property management who reviews all of your files and cases. Yeah, right. You are also responsible to review those leases and to review those property management agreements, just like you review your contracts and your sales agreement, your sales agreements and your listing agreements. Okay? So they're going to go pull those files from those property management, those rental units too, and they follow them through. And when they get to each step, when they get to the main office, they say, okay, now fine. Here's when the contract was ratified. Here's the check. Show me the date that it was deposited. And your bookkeeper pulls out the deposit slips, and they show them the slip and what the escrow balance is. They were kind enough to let me make a couple of suggestions, like, don't come to the office on the 10th of the month or the 25th of the month, because the 10th of the month, you guys are all paying rent out. And you're not going to get an accurate view of what the escrow account has in it if you're there on the 9th or the 10th of the month. Because your books will say you've got $100,000 in the account, but your bank will say you've got $300,000 in your account. The owners haven't received their rents. Vendors haven't gotten their checks and cashed them, so you've got more money in the account than what the book says. They were able to pick that up. And the question was, why is this more than this? And fortunately, we had a very good bookkeeper who said, here's why, here's what, this is this, here are the outstanding checks, and it balanced to the penny. And I was very happy. The general manager of our company, Bob Birch, had a long-standing philosophy of, when the board comes in, don't say anything. Just answer yes and no. Just as few answers as possible. And I thought it was funny because Helen was sitting next to me, and they asked him questions. And Bob said yes. And they said, now, what about this? And then Bob just started running off. And Helen kicks me on the leg going, yeah, you can't do that yes-no thing. It doesn't work. But be cooperative. The idea when we put this in place was to say, this shouldn't be punitive, but it should be compliance-oriented. If they go in and discover that your escrows are out of balance by $200,000, that just became a complaint. That's a problem, okay? But if you don't have a policy and procedures manual that's in compliance with what the rules and regs say, then the idea is to help you get into compliance. If you don't have systems in place that lead you through how to do things, then the idea is to help you come into compliance. Help you learn how to do it better. Okay? Not to come in and just slap you around. Does that make sense? I say to you as brokers, don't look at it as, oh my God, here's something else we've got to put up with, but use it and view it as a learning experience. The investigators are going to come in and help me come into compliance. Over and over again, I've had phone calls from brokers when I'm teaching broker supervision, and they say, well, there's nothing in the statute that says exactly how the escrows are supposed to be handled. And some of them say, well, I'm from North Carolina, and it's a whole 4-page book on what the escrows have to look like and how you have to do accounting. It's an opportunity for you to learn how to become into compliance.